Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, the Warzone meta here is relatively diverse. There's a few weapons at the very top that are super dominant, but for the most part, especially with this TTK, there's a lot of solid options and a lot of very competitive options. And today, I wanted to break down 5 of the most underrated weapons we currently have in the game, weapons that absolutely can hang with some of the best, but maybe aren't getting a ton of attention. So first up here, we are starting with the EBR. This is a weapon that definitely takes a little bit more skill and patience to use than some of the others, especially some of like the top meta weapons that are relatively laser beams, super easy to use. That's why everyone's running them. The EBR is a gun that can absolutely dominate if you know what you're doing with this gun. Obviously, it's semi-auto, so you have to be very accurate with it, but if you are, this thing can actually like 3 to 4 shot kill at some pretty extreme ranges. Like overall, it's very powerful, just a little bit more difficult to use, so you just got to get used to that. So first up here, I do have the Schlager 3.4 times is a solid, mid to long range optic here. I go ahead and I obviously tune this for the furthest eye position and also the faster ADS speed, the basic tune for pretty much every single optic we use in this game, right? But that works perfect for this style of gun. I do go ahead and throw on the 20 round mag just to give you that nice little safety net. The basic 10 round mag, not really doing it for duos, trios, or quads, or sometimes even solos, depending on your aim, right? I also go ahead and run the Olay laser for the faster ADS, slightly better stability as well. You get some better sprint to fire. That's not super huge here, but in general, I like to have this play a little bit more aggressive just in case I need it in a certain situation. I also got the Boremaster barrel on here. This is for the better control and the better velocity, so it's going to feel even more consistent over mid to long range. And I tune this for that slightly better range and then the slightly better steadiness as well to keep it a bit more consistent. And lastly, I go for the Polar Fire S. This will help out with that damage range and that velocity per usual, and I tune to maximize that velocity basically, and also for a slightly faster ADS, making it a bit more aggressive as well. Overall, 100% a super underrated weapon that actually is really dominant if you can master it. So would highly recommend trying this out. It's honestly super unique and very good in the right hands. Another weapon that definitely gets overlooked is the MX9. Of course, when you're talking subs, it's the Fennec, it's the Vosnev, it's the Lachmann or the MP5. The MX9 is by far, I think, the easiest SMG to use. I mean, the thing is straightforward as can be. It's super easy in terms of recoil, also has phenomenal mobility, and can honestly hold its own in terms of TTK. Like, it's pretty good there as well. This setup in particular is all for aggression. So first up here, I do go for the Corona Mini Pro. It's your basic blue dot. If you like a certain close range optic a bit more, or if you like the iron sights, you could always run that. Personally, I hate the iron sights on this thing. I'm not a fan whatsoever, so I gotta run the blue dot on there for the eye position and the slightly faster ADS on this tune per usual. Behind the face cam here, I'm actually using the C11 Riser. This is going to give you that better sprint to fire and ADS, making it even better for, those SMG type fights. I tune this for the slightly faster ADS, and here I do go for the better stabilization. We're not getting much added control here, so that's a little something to help out there if you ever need it. I also got the Q900 grip on here. That's for the better ADS and sprint to fire yet again. So as you can see, we're maximizing that mobility to make this thing just super aggressive. I tuned to emphasize that even more with the better sprint to fire and the better ADS speed yet again. You gotta run the 32 round mag on here. That's a must have. Honestly, that's still a little bit too small in terms of capacity. I'd love to have like a 45 on this thing. It'd be elite if that was the case, but 32 will suffice because that's all we got. Then lastly, I go for the S901 barrel. Better range, but also better movement speed and velocity. So a lot of very solid pros there. I tune for the better ADS, then also the better strafe speed as well to make it even more aggressive. So this thing is flying around. Its mobility is phenomenal, especially with this setup. And then once you're closing that gap for close range, this thing can dominate. Just a reminder, by the way, as we are breaking down all the setups here today, if you guys are new, every single day I got you covered with news, updates, loadouts, tips, everything that you need to know between MW2, Warzone 2, and DMZ is right here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications to always stay up to date. Also, if you guys enjoy this video or if you find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it as well. Let's try and aim for 2,000 likes on this one. Now, you just heard me talking about the go-to SMGs and the Fennec and the MP5 and whatnot. Another one that absolutely gets overlooked is the Vel, aka the MP7. This thing for like the first 10 meters or so, not necessarily as competitive as some of the other SMGs, but for some of the longer close range, aka like the 20-25 meter fights, and then the mid range, this thing's very impressive. It's low recoil and has that really good sort of hybrid property there where it's good in close range and mid range, especially for like sniper support and whatnot. So here, first up, I am going for the Soldier Grip. This is that better ADS and better sprint to fire. Again, we're tuning to maximize that with with the better sprint to fire and better ADS options there. I also have the RXT stock. This is again meant for mobility to try and maximize the aggression here, better crouch, sprint, and ADS speed. I tuned for the better stability in this case just to keep it pretty consistent, and then also the better ADS speed yet again. Iron sights here, super clean in my opinion, so I go for the 7 milliwatt laser, faster ADS, and sprint to fire. Obviously huge pros to have for an SMG. I actually use the drop grip in this case. Now this is just helping out with your hip fire accuracy, which in a sub is always a good property to have, than your stability, but you can actually tune this for even better mobility. So better ADS, better strafe speed on the tunes there make this a little bit more aggressive. Then lastly, you don't need the suppressor on close range guns as we've talked about lately, so I go for the KT85 compensator, better horizontal and vertical control. I tune for the better ADS than the better gun kick control. So this thing is going to shoot straight, and when you are landing your shots, it's going to feel very consistent and very solid. So absolutely another underrated SMG that can hold its own. Then we get back to the rifles, and as we've talked about lately, the Lachmann 5.56 is sort of a hidden gem, if you will. Like, a lot of players look at this and say, oh, it's not that impressive, it's low recoil, that's about all it is. But this thing is actually low recoil with a very, very competitive TTK, as we've highlighted recently. This thing can hold its own with some of the better rifles in the game, which I don't think a lot of people realize, hence making this a super underrated rifle in the grand scheme of things. So first up here, AMOP V4, my classic go-to scope here for a lot of my rifles. We're tuning again for that furthest eye position and then that better ADS speed as well. 40 round mag, pretty standard safety net, works fine for all squad sizes there. The Ripper underbarrel, as we've talked about, is a go-to here for the better control, and we're tuning for that better stability and then that better recoil stabilization as well to make it even more of a laser beam when needed. Echoless 80 suppressor here, no Custovia option unfortunately, so we'll just go for a ton of extra velocity here. Also helps out with the damage range just a little bit, which is nice to have. We tune for that better velocity and then also the better ADS speed, since recoil smoothness won't really do anything for the overall build there. Then lastly, I go for the 15.9 inch barrel, better velocity, better range, better control. Obviously just highlighting this gun even more so where it's already its best in the mid to long range, so it's going to help capitalize on those strengths already. Better damage range and recoil steadiness on the tunes here. Like I said, this thing is an absolute laser beam, one of the most straightforward and easy to use rifles, and because of that, you're gonna land your shots consistently and have a pristine TTK realistically. And then lastly, here we got the M13. Players again look to this gun and it's like, okay, yeah, it's low recoil, but its damage is kind of iffy, not anything special. This actually has the second best TTK over long range right now for the rifles, just behind the Kastov 7.62. So once you get to those 50, 60, 70, 80 meter fights, which you're obviously going to have a ton of with rifles, this thing can dominate, which people just don't realize. It's actually really good. Now, mid-range, it's pretty mediocre, but for long range, this thing is an actual beast when it comes down to it. So very similar setup here. AMOP V4 yet again, furthest eye position, faster ADS per usual. 60 round mag in this case. The damage per mag on this thing's a little bit worse than some of the other rifles because the fire rate's so fast, so having the largest magazine possible is kind of necessary here. Ripper underbarrel yet again, same tunes as over on the Lachmann. Idle stability, better recoil stabilization as well. Echoless 80 suppressor, again, same deal as before, better velocity, better ADS speed on this tune. Then lastly, I go for the Echelon barrel. This will help out again with the range, velocity, and the recoil control, so perfect for those long range fights where, as mentioned, this thing thrives. And we go ahead and we tune for the better steadiness and then the better damage range on this as well. Seriously, don't sleep on the M13. This thing's spicy for the long range. That said, all these guns are super underrated, but super capable of dominating in the right hands. And that said, that's going to wrap things up for this one. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications. That way you can always guarantee you're up to date with the latest going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.